What's going on, you guys? It's Jacob. We're back at it today with another book review, and today we're doing The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Have you ever wondered why some smart people that you know make financial decisions that don't actually seem that smart? Or have you yourself ever made any type of financial decisions that to other people don't really make any sense, but in your own mind are fully justified? Well, those are the types of questions that The Psychology of Money really dives into. This book is a pretty easy read. It's 20 chapters that go over all the things related to how people view money and how they may have gotten to that point. Look, money isn't just simple math. It's not as easy as just spending less than you're taking in. There's a lot of emotion behind it, human psychology, your past lived experiences, what you were taught as a child. All of this stuff culminates and really forms how we sort of view and perceive money. We all think differently about money. So one of the main points that the author talks about in this book is that nobody is crazy. And what he means by that is that we all have reasons and rationales in our head for why we're making the decisions that we're making when it comes to money. And some of those experiences that we've had previously in our life can really shape how we think about money and why we're doing the certain things that we're doing. So next time you think about maybe somebody who's making a decision that in your head doesn't really seem rational, one, it might just not be that great of a decision, but two, it may actually be what's best for them in their particular situation, or they're just at that conclusion based on some of the experiences that they've had previously, whether or not that's really the right direction that they should be going. Another key point that the author makes in this book is the relationship between luck and risk. A lot of times we attribute a lot of things that people do as their hard work, and they really put in the work, and that's the reason why they're where they're at today. Or if they're not successful, we view it as they didn't put in the work, and that's why they're where they're at today. But we also don't really consider luck and how much influence that has in what happens in our lives. Another one of the chapters in the book is getting wealthy versus staying wealthy. In this chapter, the author talks about what it takes for somebody to actually become wealthy. And some of the traits that are required are you need to be a risk taker, you need to be ambitious, you need to be somebody who is optimistic about what's going to happen in the future. And there's a lot of those traits are associated with people who do get wealthy. But there's a difference between getting wealthy and then staying wealthy. So once you do get that money and you are in a better financial situation, you need to be able to maintain that. And that's where a lot of people struggle, is they may get used to being that risk taker, the person who went out and took a bunch of risks. And we learned previously that sometimes there's a lot of luck involved in those situations. So maybe they just think that that luck is never going to run out, or they don't attribute it to luck. And then what ends up happening is if they don't sort of flip the switch to more of a maintenance and trying to stay wealthy phase, then they may end up losing a lot of that wealth that they've accumulated. So somebody who stays wealthy is somebody who practices, frugality, somebody who understands the value of the money that they've worked so hard for, somebody who understands the importance of things like diversification and protecting themselves. So it's important to know those distinct differences and apply them at the different phases in your life. Another one of the points that the author makes in the book is that you'll change over time. And I thought that this one was really interesting because we do change over time. What we want today is not necessarily what we're going to want later on. And I'm sure if you sit back and to reflect for a little bit, you'll think, back when I first got out of college or back when I was in high school, some of the things that I thought I wanted, I wouldn't want today. So, that's really important to understand, because when we're going about our lives, we don't want to lock ourselves into commitments that are going to strain us financially, because we might not even want those things later on in the future. When we're younger, a lot of us think that we want really expensive stuff like a nice sports car or a huge house. But then later on in life, we start to realize, hey, I don't really care about having this nice fancy car because, one, it costs more to maintain. I'm worried about if I get a scratch on it every time I park it anywhere. It's just a hassle. I'd rather just have my Toyota where I don't got to worry about it. It's cheap to maintain, and I can do stuff I really enjoy, like spending time with my friends and family and whatnot. So just acknowledging that, things that you want now, you may not want in the future. So it's probably best to avoid trapping yourself into large financial commitments. All right, so now I'm going to rapid fire a couple points from the book, and these are some key messages that are really going to help bring it all together. Use money to gain control of your time. True wealth is having the ability to do what you want when you want. Save money even if you're not expecting to use it for any specific reason. That gives you flexibility to put that money where you see fit. Be reasonable. You don't have to be perfectly rational, because even if you try to be perfectly rational, you're probably not perfectly rational, just because we're humans and that's our nature, right? just be reasonable, sort of reflect on what you do, and have just a set of core principles that you believe and a philosophy that you try to stick to. Compounding is huge for building wealth, but it takes time. So you need to be patient and you got to stick to it. Independence is more important than flashy wealth. A lot of people who you see out there with, their nice cars and their fancy houses, they may not be as wealthy as you really think. A lot of that may be purchased on debt and they're really living in a paycheck to paycheck situation. So be cognizant of that. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Reducing the amount of financial liabilities that you take out is going to give you that flexibility in your life so you can do the things you actually enjoy. All right, guys, that was the end of my book review for The Psychology of Money. Overall, I think this was a great read for anybody who's interested in learning about finance, who wants to know a little bit more about why they may be making some of the decisions that they're making, or to even get some insight on maybe what some of their peers might be doing, or learning about why others around them may act in the ways that they do. It's also really easy to read, and all the concepts are pretty simple, so even if you come to it with no financial knowledge, you're able to really pick up some useful stuff. So I think it's definitely worth a pickup. And if you guys do pick it up and you read it, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think. I appreciate it, everybody. And until next time, I'm out.